Ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs, pyramids, and powerful gods. For over 3,000 years, the Egyptians built a civilization that thrived on tradition. Yet, into this world of continuity, a revolutionary pharaoh emerged. Akhenaten, his reign, a brief flash in Egypt's long history, would challenge the very foundations of Egyptian society. Akhenaten's story is one of radical change and ultimate upheaval. Akhenaten's original name was Amenhotep IV. He was born into the 18th dynasty, a time of great power and prosperity for Egypt. His father, Amenhotep III, was a renowned builder and diplomat. But Akhenaten would not follow in his father's footsteps. He yearned for something more, a different path for both himself and his kingdom. Akhenaten's reign from roughly 1353 to 1336 BC marked a period of unprecedented religious and artistic transformation. At its heart lay a radical shift, the elevation of a single god, the Aten, above all others. This move towards monotheism was unheard of in ancient Egypt and would have a profound impact on every aspect of Egyptian life. Before he became Akhenaten, the pharaoh was known as Amenhotep IV. The early years of his reign, spent in Thebes, the traditional capital, are shrouded in some mystery. We know he was the son of Amenhotep III and Queen Tia. We also have evidence of building projects he undertook, including additions to the Temple of Karnak. However, the young king's true intentions were not yet clear. These early years, perhaps a decade or so, are like a calm before the storm. The traditional gods, such as Amun, were still worshipped. The art, though showing hints of change, still adhered to the established canons. Some scholars believe that even in these early years, Amenhotep IV was already developing his ideas about the Aten. The Aten, a sun disk, had been a minor deity in the Egyptian pantheon. Perhaps the seeds of his revolutionary change were already being sown. What is certain is that something shifted in Amenhotep IV's thinking. He would soon make a dramatic break with the past, changing his name to Akhenaten, meaning effective for the Aten, and embarking on a religious revolution that would shake Egypt to its core. Around his 5th year as pharaoh, Amenhotep IV initiated a radical change. He introduced the worship of the Aten, not merely as a supreme god, but as the only god. This was a dramatic departure from the traditional Egyptian polytheism, the belief in many gods. The Aten was unlike any other Egyptian deity. It was not depicted in human or animal form, but as a sun disk with rays extending downwards, each ending in a hand offering the symbol of life. The Aten was seen as the creator god, the source of all life and light. Akhenaten, now the pharaoh's name, declared that the Aten was the universal god, accessible to all. He closed the temples of the old gods, especially that of Amun, the most powerful god in the traditional pantheon. Priests of the old gods were removed from their positions, and their wealth and power were confiscated. This religious shift sent shockwaves through Egyptian society. The priesthood, who held significant influence, was angered and threatened. The people, used to a world of many gods, were confused and perhaps frightened. But Akhenaten was undeterred, pushing forward with his vision of a new, monotheistic Egypt. To further solidify his religious revolution, Akhenaten decided to make a clean break from the past. He left Thebes, the traditional capital and center of Amun worship. He chose a new site in Middle Egypt, a virgin territory untouched by the presence of the old gods. Here, he would build his new capital, Akhenaten, horizon of the Aten. Akhenaten, known today as Amarna, was built with astonishing speed. It was a planned city, laid out on a grid system. At its heart was the great temple of the Aten, an open-air complex designed to bathe the worshippers in the sunlight of their god. Akhenaten was a city dedicated to the Aten. The king's residence, palaces, and government buildings were all constructed in the new city. Akhenaten and his family moved to Akhenaten, leaving behind the old ways and embracing a new life centered on the worship of the Aten. Section 5. Art in the Amarna period, a departure from tradition. Akhenaten's religious revolution was mirrored in a dramatic shift in Egyptian art. The traditional, highly stylized art of the Old Kingdom and New Kingdom was abandoned. In its place emerged a new style known as Amarna art, characterized by a sense of naturalism and a focus on the royal family. Statues and reliefs from this period depict Akhenaten, his wife Nefertiti, and their children with elongated faces, slender limbs, and prominent bellies. Some scholars believe this reflects a deliberate break from traditional representations, while others suggest it may be a form of artistic expression, or even a reflection of a genetic condition. The scenes depicted in Amarna art also differed. Instead of the traditional scenes of pharaohs smiting enemies or gods bestowing blessings, we see Akhenaten and his family in intimate settings, playing with their children, worshiping the Aten, or enjoying moments of leisure. This emphasis on family life was unprecedented in Egyptian art. Section 6. Daily life in Akhenaten's Egypt. The changes wrought by Akhenaten extended beyond religion and art. They touched the everyday lives of the Egyptian people. The closing of the temples of the old gods and the confiscation of their wealth disrupted the established order. Priests lost their positions, and the people lost their traditional places of worship. The economy, too, was impacted. The building of Akhenaten and the shift in religious focus required significant resources. The disruption to the traditional priesthood may have also had economic consequences. However, life in Akhenaten was not all turmoil. The city was a vibrant center of activity. The royal court, government officials, and artisans all resided in the city. Markets bustled, and people went about their daily lives, just as they had in Thebes. The impact of Akhenaten's reforms on the lives of ordinary Egyptians is still debated by historians. Some argue that his reign caused widespread hardship, while others believe that the changes were less disruptive than often portrayed. Section 7. The aftermath of Akhenaten restoration and erasure. Akhenaten's reign, marked by such radical change, was relatively short-lived. He died in approximately 1336 BC after ruling for about 17 years. The exact circumstances of his death remain unknown. He was succeeded by a series of short-lived pharaohs, including his young son, Tutankhaten, who would later become famous as Tutankhamun. Following Akhenaten's death, there was a swift and deliberate effort to erase his legacy. The worship of the Aten was abandoned, and the old gods were restored to their former prominence. Akhenaten, the city built as a testament to the Aten, was abandoned and allowed to fall into ruin. The pharaohs who followed Akhenaten, including Tutankhamun and later Horemheb, went to great lengths to remove all traces of his reign. They destroyed monuments and inscriptions that bore his name and image. Akhenaten's name was struck from the official king lists, and he was branded a heretic. The attempt to erase Akhenaten's memory was so thorough that for centuries he was almost entirely forgotten. It was not until the discovery of Akhenaten in the late 19th century that his story began to be pieced back together. Section 8. Akhenaten's legacy, a seed of monotheism. Despite the attempts to erase him from history, Akhenaten's legacy endures. He remains one of the most enigmatic and controversial figures in ancient Egyptian history. His radical religious reforms, his break from artistic tradition, and the mystery surrounding his reign continue to fascinate and intrigue us. Some scholars have seen in Akhenaten's worship of the Aten a precursor to the monotheistic religions that would later emerge, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They point to the similarities between the Aten as the sole creator god and the concept of a single, universal god found in these later religions. However, this connection is debated. The Aten, while unique in the Egyptian pantheon, still retained some aspects of earlier sun gods. Moreover, Akhenaten's religion did not develop the same concept of a personal god or a moral code that would characterize later monotheistic faiths. Section 9. Akhenaten in popular culture. Akhenaten's story, with its themes of religious revolution, artistic innovation, and political intrigue, has captured the imagination of writers, artists, and filmmakers. He has been the subject of numerous novels, plays, and operas. One of the most famous fictional portrayals of Akhenaten is in the novel The Egyptian by Mika Waltari. The novel, a fictionalized account of the life of Sinuhe, a physician in Akhenaten's court, depicts the pharaoh as a visionary idealist, but also a ruthless tyrant. Akhenaten's life and reign have also been the subject of documentaries and television programs. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, with its links to Akhenaten, sparked renewed interest in the Amarna period. Exhibitions featuring artifacts from Akhenaten's reign continue to draw crowds worldwide. Section 10. Conclusion. The Enigma of Akhenaten. Akhenaten's reign was a brief but brilliant flash in the long history of ancient Egypt. His attempt to overturn centuries of religious tradition and establish a new order centered on the worship of the Aten ultimately failed. His successors were quick to dismantle his legacy, returning Egypt to its traditional ways. Yet, Akhenaten's impact cannot be denied. He remains a figure of fascination and debate. His religious revolution, while ultimately unsuccessful, challenged the very foundations of Egyptian society. His artistic innovations left an indelible mark on Egyptian art. Akhenaten's story is a reminder that even in the most stable and enduring of civilizations, change is always possible. His reign, though brief, serves as a testament to the power of ideas and the enduring human quest for meaning and understanding in the universe.